to win that championship. I mean, we haven't won a championship. I mean, we only have one to our record in our franchise history in the 70s. Now, we have a curse ever since we traded Ray Allen traded Ray Allen to the Supersonics back in after 2003 season when we made the NBA Finals and lost to Allen Iverson and the 76ers. You know, we cannot continue to just be a subpar team. You know, we got a brand new stadium coming next year. This is a $100 billion stadium. You know, we have to start looking like a contender in this league. We have a young core players. We have a bright future, and I'm really excited for how things are going to turn out. I mean, Antetokounmpo turned out into a hell of a player. You know, I'll for one say that when we drafted him back in 2013, I was so pissed when they drafted him because I'm like, who the heck is this guy? And I'm pretty sure everyone agrees with me. But now I'm excited. You know, I even have his Milwaukee Bucks green jersey hung up on my wall. You know, I really love this kid. Has a great attitude. He says he wants to stay for the rest of his career. That's amazing. And the Bucks finally got their star, who's a future of this league. The thing for Antetokounmpo is he needs to take the next step, and he needs to jump frog Kevin Durant, or he needs to start playing like Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant is now the best player in this league, according to my opinion, and that I think he overtook LeBron James. LeBron James is a great player, but Kevin Durant just has the more upside. And yes, a lot of people who are Oklahoma fan or Oklahoma City Thunder fans would say that they hate Kevin Durant, and I wouldn't blame them. He left a bright future in Oklahoma for a Warriors team to win a ring, you know. But then again, people don't look at LeBron James and say, "Oh, well, hey, he didn't leave. He left his Cleveland for a ring," you know. Again, people did burn his jersey, but people are put a lot more emphasis on Kevin Durant for being what he did and win a ring. You know, you can't hate a player for doing that. And I see Antetokounmpo, he could do the same thing. And that's remained to be seen if he decides to do that after this contract is up, because he could make way more money in the free agent market. But would he do that? You know, that remains to be seen. He's still young. I mean, look at when LeBron James was young, when Kevin Durant was young, you know. Look what they did, you know. Granted, Kevin Durant was a little bit older, so he spent his first 6 seasons, I believe, in OKC. Well, before they got moved to Oklahoma, he was a Sonic. And LeBron James spent, I can't remember, I think it was like maybe his first 4 or 5 seasons in the league in Cleveland. And he left, you know. He left for Miami to create a big three in Chris Bosh and Dwayne Wade. You can't fault him for that. He wanted to win a ring. And a lot of players are hungry for that. It's a hungry league, you know. It's a competition, you know. If you don't stay on top of your game and whatever, you're just going to wash out. Or players want success, and being successful is winning a ring, you know. That's the importance of being in the sporting industry and playing the NBA, for that matter, is players want to win a ring. They don't want to be with a team that they're never going to win a ring. You know, it doesn't matter how many MVPs you win, how many All-Star appearances you make, or how many first-team All-American, or All-American, but all first-team NBA you make, or if you lead in scoring or whatever. That at the end of your career, if you don't win a ring, yes, you may make the Hall of Fame, but it's very slim that you do. Because look at Michael Jordan. He made it because he won several rings. Now, if you're a player that retires and you had all these accolades and whatever, but you never won a ring. I'm gonna say World Series. That's baseball, not NBA. If you don't win an NBA championship, then a lot of people are gonna think you're an average. They're gonna forget about you. They'll be like, "Yeah, you did pretty well in your career, but you never won a ring." But is that for you to say that it's that player's fault for not winning a ring, even though he's a star? Yes and no, because yes, they should being a star, they should be able to carry their team to the top. But in Antetokounmpo's favor, he can't do everything himself. You, as a player like him and an all-star or a player like that, you need pieces around you in order to win a championship. Look at the Warriors. They surrounded Steph Curry with Klay Thompson and Draymond Green and everybody else, Andre Iguodala, and that's why they're a great team. Now, according to SB Nation, they're saying that a lot of people thought that they would be, when they traded for Eric Bledsoe in early November, that what they needed to push over the top. However, that's just not the case. He's a great player. I love Eric Bledsoe. I thought the trade was amazing for a team that usually doesn't trade for big players. And I'm happy that John Horst, I was always skeptical on the Bucks bringing in a guy who hasn't had any GM experience. However, he did really well in getting Eric Bledsoe, And a lot of people are saying that, they gambled the future for a guy like Eric Bledsoe. I mean, you traded Greg Monroe. Yeah, that you gave up a lot. And you could tell by giving up Greg Monroe, you gave up everything in the middle, in the paint and everything like that. But you get a player in Eric Bledsoe who has another year on his contract, who I'm personally predicting that he will resign with the Bucks. Why wouldn't he? He's playing with a good team. He's playing better than he's ever played in his career. He's looking like his days when he played in L.A., when he first came in the league, from Kentucky. When he played with John Wall and the Wildcats and won a couple national championships. But it still comes down to whether or not he would want to stay here in the league or stay here with the Milwaukee Bucks. And that's his decision. Now, as for the NBA trade deadline, the big question is, will the Bucks make a big splash for DeAndre Jordan? This has been a huge rumor for the last 2-3 months, ever since pretty much the season started. Ever since we traded Greg Monroe, the Bucks have been searching for that big man to take over at the 5 position, at the center. We don't have that. And while I would really love to see DeAndre Jordan become a Milwaukee Buck, that would catapult us to the top 5 in the East. But it comes with a cost. And what is that cost, you ask? Well, according to sources, we would have to give up people like Jabari Parker and Malcolm Brogdon and Thon Maker for him, and some first-round picks. Now, I think that's a bit of a steep price for a guy that we don't know will be re-signed with us. I mean, would you give up all of that for somebody that can opt out after this year if we don't make them be a championship? I mean, I would say no. I wouldn't gamble my future for that. But it'd make a big statement for our team going into the next year. That could weigh a lot into him coming back with the Bucks. Is, hey, we got a new stadium coming up. We got a good young core and future star and a star and Giannis Antetokounmpo, and head of the NBA for an arguable point. Chris Middleton, Eric Bledsoe. I think getting somebody like DeAndre Jordan would help the Bucks to re-sign Eric Bledsoe, but also maybe convince Jordan to be able to re-sign with the Bucks after this year. I mean, granted, we would have to restructure a lot of contracts, but trading him or re-signing him would have to be for less money. I mean, the Bucks won't have a lot of cap space at the end of the season, and everyone knew that. They're going to have very little, so they're going to have to do the best of what they got. And that by getting DeAndre Jordan, that could probably make room for us to trade John Henson and his big deal. I like John Henson, as I spoke earlier in this podcast, that I think he's a great player, but we would have to move John Henson because he wouldn't be starting, and we can't afford to play a role player or pay a role player $45 million or whatever we're paying him per season to be coming off the bench when you're paying a guy that makes $20 plus million a year in DeAndre Jordan. Besides DeAndre Jordan, I think there's other rumors that were floating around that we were interested in trading for JaVale McGee from the Warriors and signing Andrew Bogut, who got waived by the Lakers, and trading for Tyson Chandler from the Phoenix Suns. Now, I'll start this in reverse order with Tyson Chandler in that he plays for the Phoenix Suns. And now, as reports are saying, the Bucks have to give a heck of a lot to get him. And why that might be is, well, they robbed the Suns for Eric Bledsoe. I mean, look, you got Greg Monroe. He hasn't been doing much for the Suns, for that matter, as they're a subpar team. They would have to give up a lot for him, unless they can find a way to carry on. I mean, they were saying that they would throw in Jared Dudley with the deal. I mean, that would sweeten the deal, bringing Jared Dudley back here. I mean, that would help our three-point shooting. Now, that would be a plus, too. You get a center who we were heavily coveting in the free agency 2 years ago, and a player that played for us before, in Jared Dudley, who was a great three-point shooter. Now, that's a very intriguing move for us to make, but at what cost? I mean, personally, I want to give up any first-round picks for him, or somebody like Malcolm Brogdon and Thon Maker for him. That would just be freaking crazy for a guy who's owed big money and is an aging center. There's just no way I would pay that much. They ultimately would be robbing us right back. It'd be Grand Theft Auto. Criminal crime right there. Then there's also somebody like Andrew Bogut, who the Lakers just released. I mean, you can bring Andrew Bogut back, who was a number one overall pick back in 2006 by the Milwaukee Bucks, and led us to, in 2010, we made it to the second round almost made second round playoff. We blew a 3-1 lead. That's when we had Brian Jennings, and how he scored 57 points in his 7th NBA game. That was incredible, But then he went down. Bogut went down with that disgusting and gruesome injury that pretty much threw his career off the Bucks. The Bucks were like, well, I don't know if you're going to make it, so the Bucks decided to let him go by trading him. And while that was a smart move at the time, it turned out to be a bad deal in the long run because, look, he went to the Warriors and has won a ring already. So bringing a guy like that who's won an NBA championship and he's a savvy vet would be very helpful. He can protect the paint. I mean, he can average you probably around 10 points a game and 10 plus rebounds and double-double if he really can push it, That would be a great move. It wouldn't cost us any draft picks or anything because we'd be signing him. And we can sign him on a veteran's minimum for the season. So that would be a nice way to cover that 5 position and improve on that inconsistency we have in the paint and grabbing rebounds. And then you have the rumors about JaVale McGee and whether we can trade for him or not. I personally believe that JaVale McGee would be a good pickup. He played for the Warriors and won a ring. I mean, they don't need him. He is a role player, and they can't afford to pay him that much money to play off the bench. They have so many other big contracts, and Steph Curry and Draymond Green and Klay Thompson to be able to pay him. And if he wants to play for a contender, a team that he can take over the top, and I think that would make us a little bit better. But out of those, with that being said, I would say out of those 3 opportunities, the one I'm really intrigued about is DeAndre Jordan. That would really make a big jump in the NBA by just trading for him. But if it turns out the Bucks are smart enough and they're like, oh well, this is a hefty price we would give up for him, then maybe they might go to the lesser of the 2 and maybe sign Andrew Bogut or sign another center, and then go through the draft to draft yourself a center, which I would think they're going to do either way, is draft a center. I mean, they got DJ Wilson, but he's not really a center. He's a power forward. But I really think this team has a bright future, and like I said earlier in the podcast, their inconsistency